Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think we'll start and I think others will join us as we go along. Good morning. Today I'm doing my webinar from home, so I'm working from home today. Happy to have all of you join me to have a conversation about reward and recognition at this very difficult time we are all facing concerning the economic crisis that we are in. And this topic is very important because we know that employees are very much affected right now by what is. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining me, fellow leaders and practitioners. We'll start now, and I'm sure others will join us as we go along. Good morning. If you're joining me for the first time, I'm Anita Riafi Esino, CEO of OML Africa. OML Africa, we deal in core HR support services in Ghana, Africa, and also in the UK and Europe. So you are very welcome. Thank you for joining me. So today we're going to be talking about how to reward employees and recognize them in this economic crisis. And if you've been to past virtual roundtable sessions with us, you know that we break out into rooms to have discussions, and then you come back and you share what you discussed in your groups, and we literally compile ideas. So this one is not about me doing like a session talking to you about the topic. It's more about all of us having a conversation about the topic and coming up with ideas of how to deal with the situation. And then I just usually sum up with some additional ideas or other things, or just to bring the whole thing together. So the round table sessions are discussion sessions. They're not a lecturing session. All right, just for those of you who are maybe coming for the first time. Okay, so this is what we have on the agenda. Because it is a discussion, there isn't a lot of topical areas because we're all quite clear what we're going to be talking about. So before we start, I'll just tell you just a little bit about OML for those of you who may be joining me for the first time. So as I said, we're an international human resource consultancy based in Ghana with presence in Africa, UK, and Europe. We began operations in Ghana in July 2010 and have been here ever since. We are known as the David among the Goliath consultancy, and our services cut across the sectors and industries, from international organizations to SMEs, to small businesses, to family-owned businesses. So we are quite versatile with our support. Our core areas around advisory, HR audits, we're known for our audits, outsourcing, talent management, and of course our international HR and services for SMEs and family-owned businesses, our specialist areas. Okay, so let's get straight into talking about how we're going to look at rewarding our employees in this current scenario. In fact, it's a scenario that when you talk about reward, it's like, how are we supposed to reward when things are so bad? But even though things are bad, we've got to look at ways in which we can maintain our employees. So we all know that businesses all around the world are feeling the effects of this global pandemic. We were supposed to be coming out of the pandemic into recovery, and then the war in Russia started, and then a whole lot of other economic issues started, and now we are in this nightmare all over the world. Recessions are happening, and we've got this term that has come out as the Great Resignation, and inflation, economic uncertainties all over the place, not just in Ghana or in Africa, all over in the developed nations are all facing similar. And though there seems to be no solutions for these challenges, now we have to look at, this is more so now that we have to look at recognition and rewards, and how best we can manage that even in a crisis. What we don't want to do is to lose our top talent, because in a crisis, let's be honest, our employees, you know, as loyal as some of them may be, if we are having to make cuts, if we are not able to increase salaries and other people are able to offer them even in this crisis. As much as they are loyal to us, they will take the opportunity, because it's about, it's about their lives, it's about their survival, it's about their issues, right? So we need to do the best we can, right, to minimize that. So a lot of the time, most people think recognition and reward always has to be monetary. Yes, we know that there is cash and non-cash, and we've got to look at how we combine the two in order to recognize the staff even at this period where they're calling it the Great Resignation period, because a lot of people are actually resigning from their jobs or leaving their jobs because of the scenarios that are happening or the companies are passing through. So the rise in inflation, the cost of living, is forcing businesses to rethink their pay plan, i.e. pay increases has become a bit of a problem, because they're trying to survive, and in trying to survive, it's not possible to increase the salaries, or even when they can increase the salaries, they're not able to meet it in line with inflation, right? So employees are also facing obviously money issues due to rising food, energy, utilities, cost, transportation, you name it, right? And the lack of pay increases obviously is having a toll on them. And in a Forbes research, they found that 27% of employees are planning on leaving their job within the next 3 months. And you would find, if you read this article, a lot of it is because things are not going great for the company, and so they are affected, right? And some of us will believe that, well, you should stick it out with your company, and we know some employees do, right? Others, are not able to for all kinds of reasons that we are aware of. And he also says that 30% of them are unhappy with their current situation, and around 28% of employees are at risk of experiencing poor well-being because of their job, right? And a lot of it is that salaries are not moving, their personal lives or their cost of living has gone up, and they are struggling to, make it to balance on their salaries. So we don't want to fall into any of these categories. We hope not. And even if we do, because of course we can only do what we can afford, right? We want to minimize it. All right. So that is the purpose of us all meeting as practitioners, as leaders, to kind of brainstorm how best we can manage this reward and recognition period, because we can't ignore it. We can't just ignore it. And I know a lot of you can't, because you're getting letters and requests for salary increases and all of that. So the idea is that we should have a conversation and see what some of the practical things that we can do outside of maybe some of the things we are already doing. Are there any other things we can consider, right, to help us to manage this period? Okay. All right. So when we're talking about reward, what do we mean? Well, when we talk about employee reward, we're talking about a tangible form of appreciation. Tangible form of appreciation meaning something that they can see, they can feel, they can appreciate, right? So in a physical or in a I don't know, experience type thing, depending on the type of reward, right? So we're talking about a tangible form of appreciation to employees who have achieved high quality work or displayed outstanding performance levels. And even now, we can say loyalty, right? Loyalty, sticking it out with the company in these difficult times. And then recognition, when we talk about it, also known as social recognition, is the act of publicly acknowledging your people for who they are, what they do, what they've done, how they are even helping the company cope and all of that, right? And with employee appreciation, workers recognize each other as well and make the workplace feel more inclusive. And in times like this is the time that we should be really looking at recognition, recognizing those, who are really pulling through the whole thing with us as companies or in our workplaces. So that's just to bring us all on the same page as always on our definitions. And here I wanted to say just, why is this important to us? Reward and recognition connects employees, right? It connects them to the organization, it elevates performance and increases the likelihood that they will stay. We know that reward and recognition is one of our strategies when it comes to talent attraction, talent development, and talent retention. So it's a very big deal. It's not just something we're looking at because we're in the economic crisis. We know that it plays a big role in the whole talent management space for us. So that's why it's important that we find a way to look at how best we can manage it, even in difficult times. Okay, so let's discuss. Let's discuss how we're going to address these issues. All right, how are we going to manage recognition and reward in a current situation. And I think the first thing we should do is that we should first of all acknowledge, let's highlight what are the issues that we are facing, right? And all of us are facing different issues. Some in one company may not necessarily be you can't afford to increase salaries. It may be that yes, you can, but is that it can't meet inflation, or that you have, but it's still not enough, and you're looking at other things. So our challenges may not all be the same, right? So that's why it's important for us to first of all look at what is the issues that we are facing, and then we're gonna go, and then in our next breakout we're going to look at the solutions, brainstorm some ideas as to how we can solve some of these problems, right? Because we're here for solutions, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to break us into rooms, right? And I usually do it randomly so that you don't, if you're you're more than one from an organization, you're not with yourselves, right? So in a minute, I'm going to break us into rooms, and then you're going to have a discussion about what are the issues that you're facing when it comes to rewards and recognition. And each group is going to I think we can have 4 groups. Each group is going to nominate someone that when we come back into the main room, who will feed back to us on what the group discussed. All right. So the first group, which is going to be in room 1, is Esther, Babiata, Kwame, and Priscilla. And in room 2 will be Na Foster Kote, and then we also have Na Nimarco, Richard, and Samuel. In room 3 will be Amma, Benice, Daniel, Emma, and Yvonne. In room 4 would be Alistu, Dorcas, Juliana, Priscilla, and Felda. And I think someone just joined, they'll just be allocated randomly. And Rachel, right? So I'm going to break you into the rooms, and what you're discussing is, what are the issues you're currently facing when it comes to reward and recognition? And please don't forget to nominate someone who will feedback from your room. So in a moment, when I click open rooms, you see a screen, a message will come up on your screen to join the room. Just click it and it will take you into your group. All right. So I'm going to give us about 5-10 minutes to have this discussion, and then I'll close the rooms and we'll come back and get some feedback. Okay. What did you discuss?
So I'm speaking on behalf of now. I was in group 2. I'm Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Yeah, so we wanted to look at each individual and what they are facing at their workplaces or their companies now. So now and Sami were able to speak, but the fundamental underlying thing is that they all have reward and recognition structures and policies in place. But when it comes to the financials, there are no financial spaces to maintain what used to be. So now they have gone innovative to find ways at which you can still recognize. So for example, Sami talked about what instant recognition at staff derbers, a short email to send somebody, oh, a good work done. I appreciate that you're able to get this sorted out in the time that we've given you. Stuff like that could also encourage people and recognizing them. So for example, Sami indicated that they have 5 core values, and each time what they're doing is that they look at each of the staff, they rate staff who have performed in these values, and they become the face of the value temporarily, and they give them certificates so that they keep encouraging them to do more. And then one other thing Now also said is that, look, there is call for increased salary demand, but they cannot increase salary because they don't have the financial space. So what they are doing is that they've tried to do hybrid type of working, where some people who can do administrative work have opted for 100% work from home, even though there are challenges, they are trying to manage it. And then some people who may need to be in the office have been given actually 3 days working from home and then 2 days in the office so that they can do something in the office. So these are some of the initiatives they have taken, and then sometimes they give family lunches instead of a big payout. They just give you and your family a lunch coupon to have lunch somewhere for recognizing you for what you have done and what output you are putting into the company. But the fundamental thing that we have all agreed is that we need to dialogue, engage the staff, engage them, and then the optics from senior management and senior executives have to show to the junior executive and the staff body that there is no money and we are all taking austerity measures. It shouldn't be that the staff are not getting, but senior executives are flaunting wealth and are getting new cars and are getting holidays and stuff like that. So we should be careful. As much as we are talking to the entire staff to take it because of the limited financial space, the senior executives should also be watchful about the optics, but we should be constantly engaging them to find ways, new innovative ways, suggestive ways that we can all improve in this situation. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. That's very good. Fantastic, Richard. And now group 2. And any other group want to feedback what they discussed in addition to what's just been said? Any of the other groups? Priscilla, Ophelia, Bernice, your groups? Hello. Oh, leaders. We're here to share. We're here to conversate.
Okay, I'm not in any group, but I can share if I'm allowed to.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so just like the other speaker said, identifying that there's a need for austerity measures to be put in place. In my organization, what we have done, likewise, like he reinforced, that yes, we've gone back to work from home, some doing 3 days, 2 days, and what have you. And those that are even coming in the 3 days are also kind of provided fuel allocation. It never used to be like that, right? So what we have identified to make it quite fair and objective is to identify from the point to point, the kilometers from which you come from work to home and from home to work and vice versa. And we are providing fuel for that purpose. Additionally, we have also pulled some vehicles around employees who work within a certain catchment, who live within a certain catchment area, so that they are also they join some of the managers who ordinarily have access to, or who are located with vehicles and fuel, right? And because of that, we have also tried to reduce our fuel allocation levels so that we could support others who obviously initially were not in the net. So that's one way. Yes, we have also maintained the lunch cafeteria services. So in as much as you come to work, you still get to have your lunch available. We work in an agricultural input distribution company. We, as one of our subsidiaries, we grow rice. And so, yes, we have also provided rice to the employees at a subsidized rate, right? Yes. Apart from the fact that, yes, the Christmas bit would also be maintained. So these are a few of the things that we currently have done within, I think, two weeks of starting this new program. Like you said, innovating around the policy so that all in all, the budget is also not impacted, heavily. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. One of the in the list I had was about if you're a company where you're having products or services that employees can benefit from, is either giving them some at a discounted rate or offering them some. So that's fantastic to hear about the fact that you're into rice and you're able to offer that, because that's all part of the helping. Yeah, fantastic. You see, like, it's why it's good to talk. It's good to talk because we get to hear what others are doing that we may also add to what we're doing or give us more ideas of what we can do. Fantastic. Richard, you wanted to talk, go ahead, yes.
So I wanted to just give an example of a suggestion I've made for one of my small companies that I consult for, and it's really working for them. So they are into these security and solar and IT services. So the policy had been that if you work with the company, you do not solicit business from the client's employees for your personal use. That has been the policy. So, for example, if you are fixing securities for, let's say, CCTV cameras for car bank, you don't go to the car bank employees and solicit business privately for yourself. Okay, but then I have spoken to the CEO and said, look, times are hard. We've even gone into shift where some of them are working 2 weeks in a month. Okay, if that policy does not impact your income that much, because the business from the private people are not any big business anyway, if you can relax that business and circumvent it suspend it for a moment and say, look, you can do that for now. But these are the conditions under which you can do that. When you do the work, you need to report that you have done it. You're not bringing the money to the company, but you report that you have done it and make sure that you do the quality of work that we expect as a company for that same individual. So, and a lot of them have come back, they've been implementing it for about 4 months now. A lot of them are quite happy. They've been able to get some small businesses to fix some CCTV cameras for some people at their homes, and they made some income when they are off duty. So it's also helping. So there's a lot of smile on their face when they come back from the 2 weeks, or they tell you, oh, I've been able to do some 2 jobs here and there, and I made this, but what we've done is that we've made sure that they record it for the company to know, so that when there is a backlash, the company can know how to address them, so that it doesn't put the company's name into what disrepute. So that is some of the things we've given them, and some of them are quite happy about it because they are getting their own gigs and they are playing it around the company. And sometimes the companies allow them to borrow tools for those private works and bring them back. But you borrow and you bring them back, and it's working fine.
Fantastic. So that's very innovative. So what I'm hearing is that we're finding creative ways to address this issue, you know, and it looks like companies are willing to consider things that probably before they may not necessarily look at in addressing these issues. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to move on to now that we know what some of the challenges are. I want us to kind of closely look at the whole reward and recognition. And, you know, in this breakout, we're looking at, you know, how can we reward on little or no budget, right? And so we need to think a bit outside the box. I think we've established that now just from the conversations we're having. But, you know, we need to look at some of what our policies are saying. And if we're not having policies, think outside of our policy. And one of the areas that I want you to consider is, I know, and I'm bringing it in because we can't ignore it because it's happening, right? And that's the area of side hustles, okay? So I'm asking where we're having scenarios where people are working 2 weeks in a month as to 4 weeks in a month, where we're reducing salaries as much as 50%, when we're freezing allowances and so on. I'm asking, is it, you know, can we, still expect people to be turning up 100%, right? And if we are reducing hours and days, and then they are still expected to come in for whatever the reductions are, is that fair, right? But secondly, can we look at how we, not necessarily support side hustles, but can we come to the arrangement where, let's say, we're offering part-time hours, right? So it means you separate the two things, where the person's in work, they are working, and when they are not working, they can pursue their side hustles. So I want us to kind of think a little bit outside of our usual zone and begin to look at the fact that even though we don't want to entertain people coming into their work to be doing their side hustles, we do know that the employees that do side hustles is an additional extra income for them. So if we are reducing income or benefits and stuff, could they make it up in another way in the days or the times that they're not working with us? Or should we, you know, I just want you to begin to think about some of these things. They're not conventional, but we are not in conventional times, right? So in this discussion, how do we reward on with little or no budget? And how do we begin to look at some of the unconventional ways of rewarding and recognizing our employees in this current scenario? All right. So that is what you're going to be discussing. And again, I'm going to break us into groups. And this time I'm going to take note of the names of the people in the groups. I'm going to recreate the group so that we don't all end up in the same group. You may end up with some people of similar in the group. Okay, so in group 1, we have Amma, Benice, Edward, Babiata, Marilyn, Priscilla, and Tessa. Please nominate who will be your spokesperson when you come back. And in group 2, we have Benice, Dorcas, Esther, Herine, Na, Richard. And then in room 3, we have Alisu, Jemfua, Juliana, Priscilla, Rachel, Samuel, and Hilda. Room 4, we have Daniel, Emma, the other one doesn't have a name, Ophelia, Woyomia, and Yvonne. All right. So that's the 4 groups, and I'm going to break us into groups. So we're discussing how can we recognize and reward on little or no budget? And we are also trying to think outside of our conventional look at reward. And I'm asking you to also look at the whole concept of the whole side hustle. How can we use that in any way to help the current situation that our employees are facing? All right, so I'm breaking you out into the group. I'll give us 10 minutes and then we'll come back and discuss and close. Thank you so much. So we're back. Right, so I'm very interested to know what you discuss. So room 1, we had Amma, Benice, Edward, Michael, Priscilla, and Tessa, who's speaking from room 1. What you discussed on how to recognize a reward on little or no budget.
Good morning, Anita. Edward here from
Edward.
Sierra Leone. Good to see you again.
Hello, hi Edward.
How is work?
So what did you guys talk about and what did you come up with? What was your thoughts on the whole side hustle point as well?
Okay, so in our group, as you've rightly mentioned, we have Tessa, Priscilla, I think one more other person. So I think I will start. Tessa can come in. We are looking at it from an angle wherein we want to be proactive as HR professionals, not reactive. So in implementing hybrid software within our current mechanisms, how we work. So in a way to support employees, taking for instance the constant increase in the cost of fuel, and that's global. For us in Sierra Leone, yesterday it was increased to 21,000 leones per liter. And as Tessa's rightly mentioned, for Ghana it is 18. So helping employees with flexi time and then engaging other side hustle can also help reduce the constant. It's stressful and it's a huge burden on everyone. And we also looked at being very innovative in the way we provide remunerations. We have to look inwards, deeper, things that our various financial acts can accommodate in providing allowances that can be tax exempt, or things that we are not
like salary sacrifice.
Yes.
Right.
So we are not evading taxes, but we want to play safe and within the various ambits of the financial act. So we need again to go into our books, look for those little areas, those things we can be very innovative with, but play within the rules, and then so that we will not be found wanting. So it's a time and moment for very deep reflections. So it's the burden is on all of us because ourselves, we are employees, we feel the pain too. So we have to come to the drawing board, think very deep inwards, see how we can be very creative, very innovative, so that we can all go through this very difficult global situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. Thank you very much. So that was very insightful. So they were branching on the area of salary sacrifice, where we look at how employees can make certain purchases or benefit more through the payroll, whether it's on pensions or on the way that they receive their cash so they get more of their salaries. And that basically that system you're still paying taxes. It just means that they probably pay less tax, and that all depends on how you're managing your allowances or the approach you use for the whole principle of salary sacrifices. Okay, so that's something for us to think about. That's not something that is common or a practice in our space, but we have to think outside the box. We've got to start thinking about other ways of doing things, as we've learned in the last few years with COVID. Okay, so group 2, we had Bernice, Dorcas, Esther, Na, and Richard. Do you want to share with us what you came up with?
Yeah, so I'm speaking Richard again. So one of the things that somebody shared was about the fact that even the pay budget itself is shrinking, the benefit budget is shrinking. So to avoid it shrinking, even if it's not growing, to avoid it shrinking, what they have done is that, for example, in terms of health, in terms of training, in terms of maybe some perks for a weekend stay and stuff like that, what they've done is that the company itself has gone into barter with health institutions, have gone into barter with training consultancy institutions, have gone into barter. So they are offering advertisements, and because they are in the advertisement space, they are offering advertisements and media and branding for the companies, and they are receiving health treatment for their staff. They are receiving training services for their staff, and they also get some hotel rooms available to reward those who have done very well as weekend stays for them and their family. That's what they are doing, so that at least what they've already been offering should not shrink. The worst case scenario shouldn't shrink. So that is what they've done, because the business is not coming in terms of if you want people to pay for it. So they've gone the other way to do barter system with some of the providers or some of their clients, so that they can still offer certain services to their staff. Then the other thing somebody spoke about that is very good is that now they are doing what they call monthly staff gift hampers, because they are in the food and beverage industry. So they are giving hampers to the staff containing product that they are producing every month, so that they can use it to support their families. And then also they are giving discounts on product, more discount on product to the staff, so that the staff can buy at cheaper rates, and then they can sell if they want to, but they are giving them that opportunity. And then one other person also said that what they are doing now is that some of the staff have suggested, those who are not even in sales, have suggested to them that they can go and bring business. They can go and look for the business for the company. So what they have done is that they are training them on how to sell and market the product. So that when you bring in the business, you get a commission. A commission that has been agreed upon. So whether you are in an admin or you are in finance or you are in HR, once you're able to go on the market and bring in business, you get a commission. And what the company is doing, not to downgrade on the quality of the sales department, is that they are giving everybody training in sales, so that they can go out there and bring in the business. And once you bring in the business, you get commission. So these are some of the things they are speaking about. And then some of the company, Mike, one of the things I've also wanted to say was that because Christmas is coming, and the company has the power to bargain wholesale prices down, what we are doing is that we are going in to buy Christmas products in bulk from the manufacturers, and then bringing that bulk into the establishment and sell it to the staff at no increased cost. So for example, if you're able to go to Vilma and get the oil at maybe 550 CD in bulk, large quantities. We bring it into the company and sell it back to the staff at 550 CD instead of them going onto the open market to buy it at what higher cost. So these are some of the things to do. So just to help them ride the storm of the situation that we are all in now. So this is some of the things we have discussed that people are doing in their various establishments. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. I mean, that's that. I was just taking notes because so that we can talk about some of these on our platforms for those who can't be here. But I think it's so great that the feedback here was the emphasis on the power of numbers, you know, which some of your companies will have. When you have the number of staff, you can negotiate a better rate on the barter services, on the going to the manufacturers, which you were just mentioning, to buy things in bulk because you've got numbers. You could use your numbers to get lower rates of products that are important, as we know, essential products for your staff at various levels, from services down to products. And I think that's something that we've not had to do before, but it's a fantastic, I think we'll all agree, initiative to explore in terms of bringing the cost down. I really like this idea about going to buy the essential products like rice, like oil, etc., from the producers, and then actually coming to either sell it to the staff at a much lower rate, or making it maybe more cost effective for hampers, for those of you who have numbers, to do that. Because this year I was actually going to ask what people are planning to do concerning hampers. I mean, a lot of the things I've heard is that people are thinking of just giving it as gift vouchers, giving the money instead of giving the products. But we also know that there are some employees that actually getting them the products is a good idea, because they may end up spending money in other places and not on where we want to make sure they are able to, you know, feed themselves. So these suggestions are fantastic ones to really look at how you can apply some of this to yourself, the whole barter and the whole negotiating using your numbers for lesser prices. And even, yes, I like this idea of the products being reduced to staff, and that they can even go and sell it if they want. But they, you know, they can make some margins on if they want as well. That's also them having extra money. And I think one that can also be really encouraged is the one where staff are actually like, you know what, I want to go out there, I want to help sell, I want to help bring money in, and that the companies are training them to be able to go out and do that, and for them to earn the extra money through commissions and bonuses and things like that. So we've got some really good suggestions just from these two groups. Fantastic. Group 3, which was Rachel, Priscilla, there was 2 Priscillas there, Jemfua, Chris, and Alitu. I don't know if I'm saying the name right, forgive me. What did you come up with? Any suggestions from you guys that you want to add to what we've had so far? Who's the spokesperson for Group 3? Rachel, Priscilla, Jemfua, Chris. Anyone speaking from there? Group 3? Anyone speaking from there at all? Did you have anything you wanted to add or share? Okay, let's move on to Group 4. So Group 4 was Yvonne, Ophelia, Kwame, then I think it's there's no name, it's a HP, and then Daniel and Chris. Do you want to share what you discussed and some of the ideas that you came up with? That's Group 4. Chris, Daniel, Kwame, Ophelia, Yvonne. Any of you want to share your ideas? Who did you nominate to feedback? Hello?
We didn't get to decide on who was going to lead the team, but since everybody is back, I'll just
Okay.
go ahead. What I was able to put down was the idea of posting employee pictures, sort of like the concept of employee of the month or employee of the week idea, to sort of motivate, so it sends a message that we see you, we see what you're doing, and the company may not have the funds to actually give a cash reward. I would think this is a worthy way of celebrating your effective contribution to the growth of the company. So they display a picture, maybe with a little caption or something for a certain duration. So that's one of the ideas. And then one of the ideas that came across too was interdepartmental appreciation, for lack of a better expression.
Okay.
So you're in a department, again, someone has done something significant, or maybe the team has made a significant achievement. And so as a leader, you express open appreciation, either specific people or to the team, whichever way you go about it. And you emphasize on that to give them a sense of motivation, encouragement for them to do better. As opposed to, thanks for executing the task, your business as usual. Go the extra mile in specifically thanking them and applauding them and encouraging them. So that's also one. And then the other idea was to give time out. Give time out aside their annual leave or whatever official leave policies are in place or absence policies are in place. So say they had to do some crazy hours in order to achieve a certain target. So you could say we give you X amount of days off, but it's not going to affect your leave. So that you get time to recoup the energy you've exerted over the number of days that maybe you had to do 2 weeks back to back to back, 2 weekends back to back to back. Then would say, okay, take the next week off, but it doesn't affect your leave. It's a nice way of keeping people rewarded, non-cash rewards. And I think the vouchers, someone else mentioned vouchers, but you could also give vouchers. The cash to give vouchers instead of say do like a review, give vouchers. They get what they actually want, as opposed to you giving them something that they might not really be interested in or might not appreciate. Give them and they pick up whatever it is that they want. So guys, I don't know if I captured everything, but this is what I had jotted down.
Fantastic. So group 4, did really well, capturing a lot of the kind of non-cash activities, which we do have to look at because we know that our reward and recognition strategies combines the two, cash and non-cash. So some of the ideas being about posting pictures, making people know that, we see you, we see that you are there, and we're appreciating you, as enhancing on our employee of the month. She mentioned employee of the week, like just utilizing that a bit more effectively now. She talked about, I like that, the interdepartmental open appreciation. That was a really good one, right? Usually, sometimes we may not necessarily be doing those types of appreciation where it's kind of open appreciation as well. And then she also mentioned about the whole timeout outside of the annual leave, also giving people some time out. Fantastic. Group 3, did you want to add on? Group 3, I think we had Rachel, Priscilla, Jemfua, Chris, and Alitsu. Did any of you want to add before we move to the next part at all? We would like to hear from you. It'd be really good if we could. Okay, all right. So what about the point I threw in about side hustles, about if we're reducing hours or we're cutting pay? We know that employees use side hustles as a way of generating extra money. What are our thoughts on that whole side of offering part-time work, so they can maybe do their side hustle to top up on where we've had to make cuts? What are our thoughts on that? I'd like to hear from some of you on your thoughts on that.
Okay, so that becomes, for me, my organization, that becomes more of a tier 2 a business continuity within the plan. So I look at it from the point of view of what the financials looks like. We have gauged ourselves at a point where some of these conversations would have to happen, typically as in workforce planning again. And so when we get to I mean, that's, I mean, when the button goes red, it gives us the indicator that, yes, we need to start planning workforce, I mean, all of the arrangements again. So yes, that for me is tier 2 continuity in the plan, as in business continuity of the plan. Here, it would require some kind of legal regimes, because ordinarily it means that you're truncating the first contracts and all the agreements therein. And so the route probably we're looking at is to go through mutual agreements.
Yes, of course.
Right. So once that is done, and you can as well identify that there's no diminution really on the side of the employee, then we can go ahead and offer that. So the ancillaries, like you are identifying as in relation or in alignment with how deep the economic situation may travel, that will become the the automatic
as a business continuity.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. Now, what I want to ask is that we have to look at this, because we have issues where we've invested and developed talent, right? And you know, during the COVID times, the strategies that we were using, some of us, was, even though you did the layoffs with some kind of retainer, right? In order to retain the talent that you are having to lay off because of the scenario, but you didn't want to lose them, right? Are we considering any of these as strategies, looking at, well, how things are climbing? Are people looking at laying off? Are you looking at how, if you're going to lay off, how you're going to manage your top talent? Richard, you had your hands up.
Yeah, so I think for what I have come to experience is, when such situations present itself and you have to do that, there are agreements that have been signed and say, okay, look, this is the situation. We had to do this, but if business improves, and we would have to re-engage the numbers, you have the right of first refusal to come back and work for us.
And on the layoff or on the side hustle scenario?
It's playing in the side hustle scenario, and it's playing in the layoff scenario too. So for example, I can give you an example. The arrangement that we are doing part-time now, 2 weeks home, 2 weeks in, so salaries and benefits have been reviewed to match what is going on. But then you have an agreement that, look, if there is an emergency and you get called out to come and handle that emergency, you are paid separately from the arrangement that is existing. So you get something extra, and you paid a rate different from what. So because that one you're off, you are home, you are not supposed to be coming, but there's an emergency. We've called you out to, let's say, go to Kumasi and address this issue. We pay you on a particular special rate, and then you get some particular special benefit. In that way, so we would also have your talent when we need that access to have you to do the work for us. So these are some of the things I think we can do. First right of refusal, and also make special arrangements for when you need to come in on an emergency basis and do something out of the time that we have arranged for you.
Yeah. So first right refusal as a strategy as well. Go on, Wyomia, go on. Yeah, I see your hand up.
Right. So for what he just espoused, okay, in recognition of the fact that, yes, the hours of work has been cut, somewhat lowering the initial contract. May I please request him to walk us through the process, at least to educate all of us here? Because ordinarily you have stakeholders, external stakeholders that you need to engage in some of these actions.
Do you mean the unions?
Not the unions, i.e. SNET, GRA, because you ordinarily just can't cut salaries in Ghana. You need to have thorough engagement. So can he walk us through, for the purposes of education, what he did to have had the nod and has been able to implement this? Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, if I may come in, at the moment where this is being implemented, the fundamental things are: one, we have encourage management to still maintain the SNIT at the same levels of what was being paid from the employer's part. Secondly, this was done in consultation with several meetings with the staff. The presentations were made to them. Some people need to be let go. Otherwise, the company itself would go into bankruptcy because business has gone down, and even credits period with the company or the clients have gone up. Some have as much as 6 months. You do the work today, you get paid in 6 months. So the monies are not coming in as supposed to be. So the options are, we let a chunk of the staff go, or for the sake of being a family and everybody being able to get something to do, what do we do? So it was agreed as a consensus, signed agreement that, look, those of us who can work 2 weeks in a month can do that. And then we also agree that if business gets better to a certain level, then those who are working on 2 weeks are coming back in on certain grounds and based on the part of the business that needs immediate boosting up in terms of numbers. The other aspect that was done was that, look, once that agreement was written and signed and agreed with the staff, labor, the chief labor officer was informed that this is the situation that would happen, that we have agreed momentarily not to do a full redundancy, but to cut down the hours of certain people. And both parties have agreed that these and A, B, C, D are the terms under which this will operate. Going forward, if the situation improves, these are the next steps that will be taking. But like I said, SNIT payments have been maintained, especially from the side of the employer, at the same rate, but not at the side of the employee, because they have gotten a salary reduction. We've not had any issue with this so far, because anyway, the numbers are also not like this. We're talking about 45 to 50 people, so the situation have not escalated beyond any. We've not got any legal action yet, but we would be taking consideration any legal action that will come maybe in the future. Thank you very much. Okay,
thank you, Richard. Okay, so just to clarify a few things, all right. As a mediator and arbitrator for the National Labour Commission, the issue is when it comes to salaries, you have to, if you're going to reduce salaries or any of the terms and conditions that you have to engage employees before you can vary the terms and conditions of employment, all right? Now, when it comes to the salary, and so the variation usually when we're engaging is around the salary. To reduce the salary, you need their consent. That's what that means, engaging them. So when you explain to employees that this is the issue and they understand and they're like, okay, fine, I will take the variation, right? You need to make sure that obviously you put it in writing so that it's on record that this is what both parties have agreed. And then you go ahead and implement. Now, the issue on SNIT works in 2 ways. If you are temporarily laying people off, so you're temporarily reducing salaries for a period of time in order to manage continuity. What employers do is one of the ones that Richard mentioned, is that they maintain the SNIT payments on the original salary, and so that they remain compliant there. If you've actually varied the contract where you're actually now saying, I can't offer the role at this point, but I can offer it here, where you're ending the contract and reissuing a new contract of employment where they're going to be on a new salary or based on what you've negotiated, and where it's going to be a lower amount what they were, but they've agreed that I'll take that. That's when you've ended contract and you've reissued a new contract, then the SNIT would apply on here. Where SNIT has a problem is where there is no, it's just kind of we've laid people off or we reduce salaries and we're not actually making any contributions to the pension. Now, they are also there. If you know that, okay, you know what, I'm making a reduction on the pay and I actually can't afford to pay on your original amount, that is where you need to engage them and have a conversation. And of course, they want to make sure that people are in which case they will probably give you some concessions or come to an arrangement with you on what to do. sometimes in the COVID times where people had to freeze, they allow you to freeze and then you repay when you get back into the green. So there are options for you to pay and pay what you're not able to pay now with arrangements with them. So it is worth engaging with them if you're having issues on that, all right? But let's be clear that we cannot reduce salaries without the consent of employees. So you have to engage, agree, and make sure you document it before you apply any reductions, all right, on the salary. Variable pay, that's your bonuses, what's not, that you have the freedom to handle that how you like. But we're talking about the contractual based pay. That's what we're talking about. That's where you've got to make sure that you consult the employees before you take any action. All right. Now, in the COVID times, you know, we're advising that, like now, where you have allowances and benefits that are not essential, maybe you could freeze those ones that are not essential so that you can feed into the ones that are a big deal to employees, like the ones around transportations and, you know, the whole cost of living benefits or miscellaneous benefits if you're offering them. And then we also said you could also look at how you can you can turn some of these benefits into more cash rewards as to you know, as to them benefits. So now it's like, well, you know, if we're offering gym services to our employees right now, do the employees really give a hoots about the gym? Or, you know, so you got to look at some of the things you're offering and see, could we freeze or suspend that or even stop it and use that money we're paying for the gym? I'm not saying people shouldn't be healthy. I'm just saying in the order of priority, people can exercise at home, right? So if you're having those type of facilities, can you hold off on that and take the money from there and place it somewhere else? So it's also worth looking at what you're kind of currently doing and seeing where the essentials are and where the non-essentials are, whether you can take from the non-essentials and add to the essentials. All right. Okay. Now, I want to also, before we close, bring up the issue that so I think we've gotten some good ideas from what everyone have said concerning both cash and non-cash reward and recognition. But I also wanted to raise the point about additional help is also as having some kind of resource. And I want to know if any of you have anything like that, having systems or resources or signposts that is directing employees, for example, into who may be having mental health problems, right? Mental health problems, it's not people, you know, who we in our environment, we just think who with mental health problems are people we see on the street. Mental health problem is the stress, the anxiety of the whole scenario of not being able to cope and all of that. I'm just wondering, that's all part of the whole rewarding and recognizing. It's also the health side. Is anyone, are any of you doing any programs around kind of managing counseling or mental health or signposting them to support? Or are you yourself creating awareness? Like, what are we doing along that side of recognizing the needs of our employee in these tough times as well? Anyone want to share anything that you're doing on that? Emmeline, yeah, you've got your hands up. Go on.
Yeah, hi Anita. Hi everyone.
Hi, I'm fine.
Okay. So yes, with my clients, what we do is to identify you know, any of our team members who actually have performance issues, which we are able to connect to probably emotional well-being gaps. And what we do is that we partner with EAP service providers to provide support. So what happens is that they liaise with the EAP consultants, have sessions with them, coaching sessions, and there's an initial assessment to actually determine that it really is a mental health related issue. And then when the EAP consultants determine that it is, and then they take them through the interventions that, you know, the staff would need to cope. And it's interesting how certain things that you would not hear as the HR person, but then they're able to speak to an EAP consultant, basically, obviously, because of the training and the background that they have. And so they come back to work and it's like a breath of fresh air, you know, feel much more different even with the crisis, they're able to still cope, because at the end of the day, it's an attitudinal issue as well. Sometimes the pressure is not what kills them, but their attitude towards the pressure, you get it. And so in addition to us being an understanding, me encouraging my clients to be understanding to their staff, once they're able to get that kind of service, it does add a lot more. And it ends up proving to you that it's not just about money, because not all companies are not paying full salaries, to be honest, Anita. Not all companies have, but they are still paying them normal, but still performance is dwindling. And yeah, so mental health is real. I just want to encourage everyone to sign up to EAP service providers to help them. It's not expensive as compared to other insurance. It's really, really, really cheap. So yes, I just wanted to just contribute and share with that. And just in case you need recommendations, I could help that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Emila. Yeah, so that's very important. In fact, and we're putting together a whole session on the whole mental health and trying to get some of the providers on, but it's something that we've got to take a lot of notes on, and sometimes, employees may not necessarily come and talk to the HR or their managers about it. I want to suggest that what we've seen working is that, now you have a lot of the health providers are having these apps where people can actually download, and they can connect to counselors or doctors in their own privacy and in their own time. So companies can subscribe to these services for their employees, where, if an employee wishes to use, they can use it in their own time. So these providers are offering it to companies for their staffing as well, where they can have, because, the other thing is counseling and things is not a common thing in our environment. You're supposed to kind of solve your problems behind closed door. You're not supposed to kind of express it. So people are not always so keen to come and share their issues. So the ways we have found is a good way is that giving them access to professionals through these apps, platforms, where they can do it in their own home, in their own time. Nobody even needs to know that they've even accessed any form of counseling on mental health or whatever the issue may be. So you may want to have a look at that. In doing that session, I'm trying to get us to kind of investigate and kind of try out some of the platforms so that we can talk about the ones that we think actually, yeah, these ones are worth you going to explore, and then deciding on the ones that you want as well, because sometimes there can be a lot of things in the market and you don't really know which one, what's the best one, right? Okay, so yeah, but mental health is a big deal, and we've had to adjust policies and practices, awareness, in order to make sure that we are reaching out to our employees, or making sure that our employees can reach out to us. And sometimes it doesn't easily come. But I think right now, as we're having this conversation, it's important that we also touch on that point as well. Did anyone want to add anything concerning the mental health, things that you're doing or you've done, or suggestions or recommendations you may want to make for us as we go to close? Just share my screen to close. Okay, anyone else? Okay, so we've done well, team. We've done well, HR practitioners. You did well in your groups. Thank you so much for your discussions and your feedback. I think we can all say that it's good to talk, right? And it's good to have roundtables where we can actually have discussions on what is happening. So I'm just going to close this by just kind of bringing in summary some of the areas that we've actually already kind of discussed. So we're saying that, there are a number of ways which we've discussed, and Richard, Group 1, Group 2, all of you have brought so many different ways. These are like sums up. So, when we talk about the COLA, that's the cost of living allowance, you can look at doing things like one-off payments to help towards rising costs. You can actually incorporate it into the salary. It all depends on the affordability of your organization. You can consider whether to offer pay rises if you can. To be honest, some companies are increasing salaries, and others are not. But if you can, you should consider it. We're talking about using one-off bonus and vouchers. Companies find it easier to do that because it's not repetitive. You may want to consider that. Some of these vouchers, by the way, you know, I know of companies and clients who are using vouchers, like in the Melcoms, in the super ShopRite, like they're giving it in super, you know, stores and stuff for their staff. They're getting these vouchers for them to go and spend there. So you can actually get these food vouchers and things like that as well. If you are able to do the loans on no interest, low interest, pay advances. If you're using some of the up-to-date payroll platforms where on these platforms, we've partnered with one company on their platform. The employees, you know, as they work, they can actually take an advance on their pay, and then when they are paid, the platform takes the money that they've given them into advance. So if you can't give the advances and you are on such payroll platforms where they will give them the loan. So if you've worked 2 weeks, they'll give you your 2 weeks pay, and then when your pay comes in, they will deduct what they've given you. You may want to consider that if you're not able to do advances or these short-term loans. You can subsidize flexible working. We had a lot of information around how flexible working was being used, where, you know, some are working shorter days in a week, working from home, and so on. So look at the way you can use flexible working hours, discounts on products. We had fantastic examples of that, where we were told about the company that was discounting its products and giving it to the employees to purchase, and they could sell it or have it for themselves. So that's if you're having products, essential products that employees can benefit from, it's worth doing. And then we also had the excellent example about how they were going to the manufacturers to buy the products at bulk because they got bulk power, and then distributing it at lower prices to staff. We also had the bit about bartering on products and services for their staff. So you've got some ideas there on what you can do. You know, some people are struggling. You know, initially when this started, we're saying things like 121, 112, 111, or in terms of how many meals you're having in a day. And now we don't even know. I'm sure people are having a lot of zeros, right? And so we're saying, you know, could you provide some kind of breakfast, cereal, lunch, something in the office that maybe helps people and employees in there to eat who are maybe actually just, you know, having maybe 1 meal a day or something like that. It's all saving on there. Having a common things. Some ones here that I was having a conversation with, this is some of the things that they were looking at, whether they should be offering maybe at least the breakfast and stuff. Others are also offering items, you know, items that they know are useful to staff, like dry foods, cleaning product, hygiene, you know, things that they know the prices are very high and they're not able to tap in, but they would appreciate the contributions. You can look at that. Commuting to work costs, you know, what can we do about that? Like I said, could we take the costs from the non-essential benefits now and push it into these areas where people have to come to work. You could look at that. And then of course, you know, we heard Emily talking about the employee assistance programs. So signing up to one of these programs or these platforms that I was talking about. And then of course we have the other forms, right? The other forms, we had some examples on which was about putting pictures up, employee of the month, interdepartmental open appreciation. So these are like our non-cash recognition and reward activities. And here I'm talking about the whole symbolic recognition, which is congratulation cards, certificates, public shout outs. And now we can even do shout outs like on our social media handles. We can have them on our website. It's just trying to appreciate the employees that also stick it out with us. You know, there are those who will stick it out with you because they are, you know, they're committed, they're loyal. And I think it's important to find ways of recognizing them in some way. And especially as Christmas is coming, it's a good time to also do some of that. One of the feedback also said about making it regular, whether it's weekly or monthly, is also there per your your organization. Monetary rewards are also there. We've touched on a lot of them. And it's known that 82% of employees are happier when they are recognized at work. And it may not necessarily be all the time the money you're giving them, some of these non-cash stuff. There's also the peer-to-peer free-flowing recognition that, you know, happens in the daily interactions between staff. So people do well, let's encourage them to peer-to-peer recognize. That's all part of building our engagement. There's also the managers are very important right now. It's really important now that our managers, you know, we're encouraging them to appreciate their staff, you know, to really step up as leaders, and empathetic leadership has to play a very key role right now for our leaders. And if you think your leaders need workshops or training to understand what that type of leadership it requires, you need to enroll them, because we found out from the COVID, as you all know, that empathetic leadership was something that a lot of leaders were lacking, and we are still in the crisis and we still need a lot of that type of leadership. So you can look at that. And then, of course, moves from the company to recognizing employees, that's also there. And as we mentioned about the whole employee hassle, and we're saying about if people are, you know, when people are full-time employees, that's when we know that they cannot work for other companies when they are working for us. But if you operate the part-time where they are supposed to be with you maybe 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever a week, when they are not with you, maybe that's when they could pursue their side hustles. That's something to consider. Part-time, where maybe their side hustle will make up the money that they can't make from not being able to work full-time. You get to retain them, and then when things improve, you can now, like Richard mentioned, offer them first refusal to come back into full-time. And if you can continue the part-time, you continue the part-time as well. So it's something to consider, what will work for your organization. And then, of course, what's really important right now as well is about having a financial well-being policy. And, you know, people want to take out loans and things like that. But as HR, we need to remember that we cannot let them take loans beyond the 40% mark, you know, even less if we can, because we don't want to burden, right, the debt and all of that. So we need to have a very sensible financial well-being policy in place to make sure that people are not also in debt, putting so much burden on their pay, right, in terms of what they're paying back. And then financial literacy education. Right now, more than ever, we all know, you know, all of us, even at this age, we wish we'd had a little bit more financial literacy at a younger age, right? We need to give some financial literacy education, how people are budgeting, how people are saving, how people are buying. Somebody may think they keep buying one city is cheap, but they don't realize they're spending more. Like, we need to give education, and HR should be looking at how to give financial literacy education. I think it's good when we send information for people to read, but we all know sometimes people are not reading. So should you run workshops, Durbers, however you need to do it to interact and get them to actually engage with this type of education is very important. People can learn how to handle their money better. It can carry them further, right? So that one I'm really encouraging and championing if you're not already doing that. Increasing the focus on mental health, we touched on. Signpost people to resources to help them with mental health and finances. There's lots of resources online. There's lots of resources. I was just telling you about apps and things. Do the research, find the information, signpost them there so that they can have access to some of this information. And then, of course, we need to boost the morale. It's very depressing. Even as a leader, I can tell you, I'm not finding it easy at times. It's very difficult to keep your morale and your motivation up. So we've got to think of activities that we're also doing to kind of try and keep the morale up, like our happy hours and bonding days or bonding hours, wache, kinke, rice, whatever hours or days. We need to think of ways to keep the morale and the motivation up, because it is a little bit depressing in the environment because it's so negative, right? So let's look at ways of which we can also boost and support employee morale as well in the workplace. So in conclusion, we all agree that with effective recognition and rewarding, whether we're in a crisis or not, employees will be more loyal, more motivated, and more productive, and not to mention they feel more secure, happy, and appreciated. And so we use recognition to offset the recession. We need to do that. We need to use reward and recognition to offset these recession worries of our organizations and our employees within the remit of the resources that we have, all right? It's my thank you slide. So I hope that this has been a good session for all of you. And I hope that you continue to be following this my session on roundtable discussions, because I think we need to have conversations. You know, sometimes it's not all about us having to give you sessions where we're kind of giving you insight. It is good for us to talk and share ideas and kind of brainstorm, because we are all facing it, whether we are service providers, whether we are HR practitioners working in companies, the issues are all the same. We are all facing the same challenges. So it is good to talk. Okay, so I'm looking in the chat before we go. Someone had actually put that we may consider to relax vesting rules on additional pension benefits. For example, the employer contribution. Okay, so that's someone made a suggestion on that. That we may want to consider maybe passing that benefit, freezing the employer contribution benefit to the pension, and maybe channeling it somewhere else temporarily. That's something to be considered. And of course, if it's to do with that, you may want to look at how that would work. And of course, as usual, you'd want to engage employees to see what their views are on that before you would want to be implementing. All right. Okay. So quickly, so fast. We've actually gone over quite a bit, but it's okay. It's because we need to, right? It's good to talk. So I want to say thank you. We did record this, I think. So hopefully if we did, we will put it up on our YouTube channel for those who signed up but couldn't come. But thank you. We did well. As usual, we did well in coming. I hope you can continue to participate in these roundtable discussions. And of course, you know, you can always message me topics that you think we should cover. I'm happy to receive topics that we can come and talk about. And the whole idea of these tables is for us to talk and share best practices and also share what is happening. I have to tell you, I have learned a lot today. That whole information around the barter and all of that was all new to me. So I've learned a lot having this conversation today. So thank you so much, those of you who shared all the insights on some of these things that you're doing, which is why it's good for us to meet as practitioners to have conversations. And now we've got technology to help us. You can be listening while you're sitting in your office working and participate and not have to physically move somewhere, which sometimes we all find very difficult to do. So I hope you join us or join me, shall I say, for the next session that we'll be having on our roundtable. So I want to thank you all so much. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you so much for honoring my invitation and for attending. And I look forward to our next session together, which we will